Stardust and Dreaming by David Berger, Lawson 2783. Narrated by David Tredinnick. A few months after 2 atomic bombs were dropped on Japan, a particle of stardust was spinning faster and faster around the sun, its mother. This little electron accelerated around the huge atom, resisting her pull. At last, with great effort, it span away from its source and tumbled through darkness, falling to earth and arriving in sunlight. I was born. In rapid succession, my prepuce was snipped. I crawled, walked, ran, learnt to speak, read and write, and do my sums. Arthur Mee's encyclopedia was at hand, with its wonderful final page of a French lesson in each volume. I had discovered another language. In high school, I did French and Latin. I grew to love literature through Biggles, Tarzan the Ape Man, Tom Brown's School Days, Robin Hood, and Sir Walter Scott. Rudyard Kipling joined this throng of suitable heroes, fit for a boy's upbringing in the 1950s. Upon a public appeal, my father took me to our local brass band, which offered tuition to young people. I was given a cornet and immediately fell in love with it. As I grew to love mathematics and French, music joined this happy duet. Yet, behind this carefree, pubescent world, there were endless questions. Why? How? When? What? I was starting to discover that there was more to this reality around me. We were particulars manifest from various universals, all of which had an initial cause. Philosophy, at first as religion, began to influence me. The concept of God was an accepted given. University at the age of 17, general pure mathematics, a mixture of science and arts, and the wonders of adolescence were a challenge and too much for me. I failed. My father was furious. "You must find a job." A job? I had no idea. The Beatles had only just emerged into our modern consciousness. We dressed in very strange ways, and boys wore their hair long. A job? Everyone was either surfing or running away to become a hippie, smoking Mary Jane and trying to avoid the Vietnam War. My grandmother spoke to her bank manager and, rather perplexed, I found myself as a junior in the Bank of New South Wales. The accountant tried to reform my sartorial perceptions. He failed, or did I? I lost that job and went to work elsewhere. Suddenly, I had to get married. It was different in those days. My beautiful young wife brought forth our son. I often wondered about that great philosophical question that my father prompted me to ask myself when he said, "Be a man." A man? I was full of childish dreams in a world of enormous possibility, contemplating the stars and drifting over still or troubled waters. Be a man? As I stood with a baby human in my arms and a brand new wife, contemplating her journey into motherhood, I learned the first step in becoming a man. Responsibility. I had to feed, protect, and house my beautiful little family, which actually comprised 3 children. Becoming a man, it is always becoming, occupied me and was a blind but driving force. Having my little family was starting to make me into something, and I kept trying. But the maths, the philosophy, the music, the French were still there trying to seduce me into other worlds. We spent many years together, but after a decade it was all over and I was alone again. More alone than I had ever thought possible. Yet my muses began to beckon me more strongly. Something new was going to happen. Don't try to be a man, just discover yourself beyond social mores. Along the way, my linguistic experience was slowly expanded by adding German, Greek, and then Hebrew. I found my way back to university as a mature-age student and secured a BA and DipEd. This enabled me to become employed as a teacher in a small K-12 school. I taught English and history. My love of grammar grew as I helped students understand the niceties of our language. I did my master's, then a PhD, and taught in 2 European countries before coming back to teach at university, focusing on grammar and argument structure. The muses of language, mathematics, music, and philosophy had not disappeared. I reflected continually on how these 4 pillars upheld my perception of reality. What was the thread? What was this glue which cemented my being onto the earth? Language has rules, called grammar. Mathematics has rules, called principles. Music has rules about composition. Philosophy has a basic rule, critical thinking. Grammar, axioms, composition, and critical thinking have one thing in common, and that is logic. I had discovered the driving force within me, and indeed within the universe. That driving force is logic, and that was what made me. Dreaming and searching for the interconnectedness of the structure of reality. But where does this fit in with the arts or religion? I am passionate about both these non-empirical concepts. They are part of me. Is art or religion logical, in the sense that they have rules? They both follow rules according to their history, school, and milieu, and they often clash, but they are subsets of a greater set, consciousness, and a pursuit in an ethereal desire to understand the universe. And that understanding must adhere to logic, otherwise it becomes meaningless and incapable of being communicated to others. Dreaming, wonderment, curiosity, and solitude combined was my lot, because what made me was the desire to understand logic and the logical connections of all reality. This is what made me. I, this little particle of stardust, am a product of logic, ruled by a logical world, with a particular destiny. A return. It has been nearly 80 years since the horrors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Therefore soon, this former particle of stardust, which is me, shall wither and become, once again, dust, to be blown away back into the presence of the stars. The end.